pee after him the other day, so.
Don't live in a fucking closet.
Right.
That's probably shit.
It's really crammed in
I
there.
think she might have let it out on purpose. I'm like, well, yeah, it dropped through her yard.
All right, let's call this meeting of the Freeman School Board to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is roll call. Yes.
David. Yep. Doug. Yes. Carissa.
Yes.
Cody. Yep.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I will require a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, conflict of interest disclosures.
There were none.
Next item on the agenda, public input.
I received none.
Next item on the agenda, consent agenda. Will require a motion to approve the following: the resignation of Jane Hermson at the end of the 2023-2024 school year, and we thank her for her years of service. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Carissa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, unfinished business. School board will continue the discussion about adding a section of first grade for the 2024-2025 school year.
So this is something we talked about at our last meeting, but we never actually took action on it. So I wanted to put it on the agenda for any further discussion and then a vote.
Do Mr. Boss on speakerphone, just so he can hear stuff.
Okay.
It's random.
Remind me, how big is that class going to be? I just can't remember specific to
28, is that correct, Shane? 28 we're at right now with 10 EL students?
That's right.
I thought maybe
I
it was
remember
30,
that.
but it could be 28, yeah. Shane, can you hear us? Can you hear us? He's not. Shane,
Reception in here too.
hello? How many students are in that first grade section for next year? So kindergarten now. What's the number? 26.
I thought it was
Okay.
26.
With 10
Right.
ESL students.
Yep, yep. I mean, as we discussed before, I'm still in favor of, I think it makes sense to add that section of first grade, and then we're splitting the second grade as well. Right, yeah, we
Yeah,
talked
that's
about all
up.
that.
With the, to jump ahead here, but with the motion, it is to add, to approve the hiring of an additional.
Additional, yes, absolutely.
Something were to shift radically, that would give us the ability to move that position somewhere else. It doesn't necessarily have to be first grade, but.
Right, just an additional
We
elementary
we have to
teacher.
plan ahead and,
That's the highest need right now.
right, and back when we had the dial, sign up, kindergarten roundup basically is what that is, and we had 16 kids at that time, and look what's happened. So it's just so hard to predict where we're gonna end up, and the signs are that we're growing, and we continue to have elementary kids come to our district, so that would give us the flexibility if we have that for the moment.
So, looking ahead, I know it's more important to have smaller class sizes as kids are basically onboarding in the school system, and then especially the kids are trying to get up to speed. What does it look like if we were to keep around 26, 27 in that class moving forward? We just split as they got. Eventually, they would just stay.
An example of that would be that we have for next year, we're planning on that our fourth grade would not be split. And,
Okay.
Jane has got a big class this year for fourth grade, so that one would not be split for next year either.
Like 28, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that one's not split this year either.
Correct.
But looking back on it, that could have been, in this scenario that we're talking about here, that could have been if we excuse me. Go ahead.
Oh. I don't know. Yeah, if we want to. I think too, I mean, important to look at 10 EL. So 26 is not, 26 is not 26 is not 26. I think it depends too. And I agree with Jake that phrasing it as an additional elementary teacher gives us some flex in case we want to even, you know, look at a, you know, more structure as well in the future. But I think obviously the need is there. We've seen those numbers continue to grow. So as we talked about at the last board meeting, I'm still on board about adding an additional staff member down there.
Yeah, and there's no like hard and fast number that would be like critical mass that we would be targeted for split, because every class is a little.
In the years that I've been on the board, it is not a hard and fast number because, again, adding in the, you know, needs of the class and just the diverse, and also grades, you know, fourth grade class might not, you know, that is 28, might not need as much help, but when you're, you know, just in first grade, just learning kind of how to launch, that's a little bit higher need as well.
For sure. Okay.
Shane, have any additional feedback on that?
Shane, do you have anything else to say?
I do not. It's just, there's also some high need non-EL kids in that classroom too
Sure.
that would probably benefit by being split up.
Sounds good. That's helpful. Thanks, Shane. Any other discussion from anybody else?
If there's a need and we can afford it, then it seems like we have a plan to implement it. We should probably proceed.
I vote yes.
It's not.
Any further? Eddie,
We're not there yet.
hold your horses.
First day, you know how this works?
Is there any further discussion? There's no further discussion. I will require a motion to approve the hiring of an additional elementary teacher for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a motion?
So you were so
Yes.
excited.
So moved by Carissa. Motion by Carissa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, the school board will hold a discussion on school programming.
Yeah, let's try this again. Sorry about that. So in your packet, we have results from a feasibility study that was performed through the Freeman, a grant that the Freeman Community Development Corporation received for $50,000, and a good chunk of that grant was for this purpose, to see, is it feasible for us to provide resources as a community to our daycare providers, as well as looking at other options in supporting preschool programming. So within this document, on page 8 at the bottom, I think is one of the more valuable pieces of information that it shows what we have within the mile radius of Freeman, and the number of students and the age that they're at. So when we're talking a feasibility study, looking at the numbers is very important, because that tells us, is it even feasible for us to support something like this? Keep in mind, there are other preschools. There's multiple childcare providers within the area. You know, from the district side of it, we can certainly entertain the conversation of in the future of having a child care facility on site, but right now I think the valuable piece to us would be looking at the preschool side of it. Let our child care centers and the in-home child care providers continue to provide that resource for families, and the school district consider, based off of these numbers, is that something that we want to look at for the future?
What exists 5 miles further that brings those numbers up so high? Like the 10 to 15, there's a substantial jump.
Yeah, you start getting into different communities too. So when you have a more residential area, that affects the numbers as well. When you start getting into the maps, that helps to show where we have pockets towards the back part of it. Has some maps of where we have pockets of people, and within those maps where it would be feasible for additional child care supports and preschool supports to be added. So that helps to represent that a little bit when you see the actual dots of where these children are residing.
They call it the supply.
So what is your, what is the consensus on staffing then? As far as, you know, number of preschool kids, to preschool teacher, and then will there be a parent involved as well? And what is the financial impact? Because we, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the same amount of funding from the state for a preschool child as a school-age child, correct? So funding from the state comes when they are 5. So 5-year-olds that are eligible and that choose to participate in kindergarten would be eligible for that preschool, or would be eligible for state aid. Now, if we have 5-year-olds that are not in kindergarten, we can get additional funding for them as well, but they have to be 5 years old. We do not receive state aid for the 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds. Typically, what you see districts do to offset some of those costs is that there would be a charge to the parents for whatever, the structure, payment structure would be, whether it's monthly, annually, or however the district would choose to move forward with that. Katie's done a lot of research too. Anything that I'm missing out on or forgetting to mention?
And maybe Angelina, I looked at all of the districts around us. I would say that almost all of them offer a preschool. Most offer a 4 and a 5-year-old preschool. They don't include the 3-year-olds. Is that what you kind of saw too? Some districts, if they feel that they can afford it, they'll pay for the 4-year-olds. The 4-year-olds will come free.
Okay.
Minnow, for instance, that's a year-by-year basis as to whether they determine that. Ethan would be the same way. And then your 5-year-olds are always free, because the goal there would be to get them to come to preschool and not shove them into kindergarten when they're maybe aren't ready for it yet,
Sure.
right? And that down the pipeline helps your classes not have such gaps in maturity and in learning. It kind of tightens that up a little bit. So, yeah, a lot of them have payment structures for the 4-year-olds. So, and I think the only district I found around here that did not have a preschool was Parker. But Parker has an in-town preschool.
Sure.
They have a couple daycares with preschools, but they also have a preschool only. So kids would go there at 4 or 5, and then you just pay, and it's like a morning. So it's not even a full daycare day. It's just a morning. So they already have that outside of the building. Plus they have their preschool, their co-op too. So they don't offer. I think that was the only school around that didn't, besides us, from what I reached out and looked at.
So do we have any idea what the impact would be to our current childcare facilities if we started offering this? I mean, is that a detriment to their business?
We had a meeting through FCDC and had our daycare centers, which are the 2 other preschools that are offering. Are you saying from the preschool side of it or the childcare side of it?
Well, I mean, if we start taking 4 and 5-year-olds and that's the majority of their daycare population, then is that I don't want to do that either.
Right.
So, or at least I want to consider that. I
Yeah.
was just curious if we had any information on that.
Yeah, so we had a meeting through FCDC and had the 2 childcare centers that were represented at that meeting, and I posed it as that if we have this preschool, this grant is designed to pull the community together and have more offerings within our community, and we don't want to take away from any opportunities they have, and we actually want to try to find ways to create more opportunities for our child care centers and our licensed in-home providers. So what I shared with them is that our program would be likely, depending on how we structure it in the future, but typically it's a half-day program. So the 4-year-olds would maybe come in certain days of the week for half-day, and then they would need the child care providers as well. And what we could do to help out is we could provide transportation to the centers.
That was my
Talking
question.
centers of 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away, a very minimal distance. And that's a great resource for the parents that are sending their kids to the preschool program, that they don't have to worry about leaving work to go pick them up, to drop them off. So that's a huge luxury for them, and incentivizes it for the child care centers that for those half days that they would enroll them there as well. So hopefully with that system in place, that would actually lead to them increasing their enrollment in the child care centers.
Okay.
And I think too, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but like a lot of them would be 5-year-olds that wouldn't otherwise go to school.
Yeah, I know that's the hope for sure.
Right.
Right, they're eligible for kindergarten. I would say that, and Angela, you can speak to this too, in all the ones I researched, I would say that most of the programs were full-day programs.
Yes.
I don't know if I saw any half-day programs, so that would just,
The majority.
and I mean, we could do it however we wanted, but,
Right.
I mean,
It's worth
I
considering.
think the bonus for the parents, right, is that they're gonna send them to kindergarten so they don't have to pay the daycare. If you're gonna have me come half-day to school and half-day at daycare, which the daycare is probably gonna charge me for full-time anyway, I'm not going to utilize your program. I'm just gonna send them to kindergarten. So I don't know if that works in the 5-year-olds so much,
That's a good point.
because
Yeah.
you're taking away that benefit to parents. So that would be, I mean, if you had 25 5-year-olds, I guess you wouldn't need any 4-year-olds, right? I mean, that's the thing too. We gotta figure out how many kids do we have and who would be interested? And then what does that look like? Like you've asked David, like what does that mean? How many teachers? Or one teacher, where are we setting our limits? And a lot of schools do have max numbers. So they take all in district first, and then there's a wait list for anybody out of district, because those in districts come first, and there's a window on it, or there's a limit. If the limit's 18,
Right, it's 18.
that's where we stop. So we're not having to pay for someone additionally.
Sure. Based on, I'm talking about 5-year-olds for whom we would get state funding, how many would we need enrolled to offset or pay for the cost of a full-time preschool teacher?
14. Average teacher salary plus benefits, 14.
Okay.
I like the junior kindergarten idea where they're 5-year-olds and we don't have to charge parents.
I do like that too, and I think it's a good way to dip your toe in the water and see, and hopefully build a successful program, and then if we want to expand upon it with 4-year-olds the following year, seems like a way to grow slowly and smart without overextending ourselves financially, or, potentially a good way to gauge interest from the community as well, but that's just my sense.
We did talk about a survey at the last
Yep.
meeting. So this is the first stage in that looking at the numbers. We could also put it out there to our community and to see how much interest there would be of people that definitively would send their child, and at what age would they send their child.
I mentioned it to a couple individuals last night that all have close to that 4 or 5 years on, and all it was expletive do it right now. Every single one of them.
That's kind of how I feel about it, and I think,
These numbers give
page
you
8,
support,
that if we do it right, that we're gonna attract, within that 10-mile radius, maybe even further, so.
I do like the things that Katie brought up about district first, and then open up to out of district. Maybe stick to 5-year-olds until we hit that, to maintain the 14 head count. And if it's underneath, then maybe open it up to 4-year-olds if they're willing to offset that fee.
How do you decide if a 5-year-old goes in the junior or the regular?
Or would that be up to parents?
I
Because,
think part of it would be your kindergarten screening, right?
Yeah.
Are they ready?
because I'm just thinking of,
It's the
Forgot you were there, that scared me.
recommendation from us.
Sorry, Shane.
Yeah, if they're
that'd
coming
be
to the
good.
birth to 3s, right? And then we can look and then dial screening for the kindergarten part.
because my buddy's going to kindergarten, so then I'm gonna put my.
Sometimes it has to do when their
Right,
birthday
even though they
falls
should.
too, as far as our recommendation, and if they're male or female.
And some people won't take your recommendation. I mean,
Right, it's ultimately their choice.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it seems like there's a path forward, and then more.
Anybody else have you have anything more to add, Jake?
So
Ada?
what we're looking at for when we make this decision is we have to we have somebody in-house that is interested, we'd have to decide if we want to, do an in-house transfer or if we want to open it up. And typically, past practice has been if we have somebody in-house, we wouldn't allow that in-house transfer to happen.
Sure.
But there is that trickle effect. We want to make sure that we're ahead of the curve and filling for that position that would be the in-house transferring from, to
We
make
still
sure.
need to approve an additional position. Right.
Yep, and that would necessitate the urgency for the approving of the position would be so we can fill the other position
Right.
that is vacant.
Would this occupy the same space as Growing Dreams used to?
It'd be in that same hallway potentially. You have any input on that? There's another, I talked to the teacher that was interested. So they liked that hallway really a lot. And then we went to the other hallway where across from the ECSE, and that one's got a bathroom and it's got cubbies that are meant for like preschool age kids. It's pretty cute. They're just little ones with storage up above and just right at their height. So the teacher that is interested thought that might be the better setup, having that bathroom in the room.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Right, cubbies, for jackets and whatnot, and boots in the winter and that kind of.
Previous kindergarten?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Like in that area.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, it's currently the sensory room, so we'd have to get creative on where we would move the sensory room to.
Sure.
That's
It's doable.
some ideas on where we could put that to. Anything more to add to that, Katie?
I think that's, yeah. We have to make, there's room, we just need to figure out so where that sensory room would go to if we would use that room. I do think that room is better. It's meant for tiny kids. So,
Can I ask a question? Would the Corn Belt Education Co-op, their preschool, that continue the way it is?
It'd be
Wouldn't
huge.
have anything to do with that?
And that'd be a huge advantage for our families because the children could just walk right across the hall to the classroom and still receive those services.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So what does everybody think? This is my takeaway. Everybody seems to be in favor of proceeding with offering preschool programming, discussing making sure that we have limits, that we offer it to in-district, that it's 5 years only, at least initially, to gauge interest. Do we feel comfortable, does anybody need any further information? You want to wait? Or do we want to vote and add an agenda item to add the preschool position tonight so that by the February meeting, we could potentially, even before that, we could have, an open position for if the staff member would choose to do that, just thinking about timing-wise and making sure that we get qualified applicants.
You comfortable budget-wise?
Now, would we wait until we see what enrollment is for a para?
I think that would be a wise decision.
So you're just, yeah.
It would just be the preschool teacher and then see, I think.
Can we go out of order real quick and say, are you still comfortable if we are to add a CTE course and this?
That I feel like is a lot. That would be adding 3 full-times.
That was my question about.
I'm not against it, I just
Offsetting
think
the-
that might need to wait closer till we look at budget more. And if we could find additional funding for,
Like grants or,
and even funding for preschool, if we get that grant or not for supplies. So I would say one of them needs to wait.
That thickens the plot, I think.
Yeah, that would change my opinion.
It would
Even-
change my vote.
even with, I'm just trying to think. 'Cause like, say if 14 completely offsets the cost, 14 people enrolling because we get that additional state aid.
That's 14 5-year-olds.
I know.
That are not.
To
going
me,
to kindergarten.
that are not going to go to kindergarten. So
Kindergarten,
to me, there's
right.
going to be a little bit of an effect because
A
that's
little bit of
great.
like a cannibalization
Especially
type
if
of
the
thing.
recommendation
Sure.
is not ready.
No,
but
I get that
we End
too.
up with 1 year where we got a tiny, tiny little class.
Right,
Until that
yeah.
catches up and
Yeah, no, that's what
evens out.
I was, okay.
So Jake had mentioned survey. I'm not really comfortable voting on that tonight, just
Yeah, I
being
think that's fair.
transparent.
That's what I was wondering.
I'd like to see what the community says. I'd like to see the numbers. I'd like to understand this a little bit better before I vote. I think it's good discussion. I think it's been helpful.
How do you think is the best way to go about doing a survey?
I'm not sure. Jake's the man on that for the community department.
I will say, when we did like the sports co-op survey, it was expensive
Okay.
and time-consuming, and there was pretty little return on investment, is what I would say. Like, percentage-wise for return was less than I had hoped.
Kinda.
Okay.
You know, but I think it's worthwhile. So I'm just saying, I think if we do a survey, we do it differently. And maybe it's just sending out a survey, asking the local daycares, can you send this home with your parents? You know, maybe it's just us typing out a page or putting out a QR code and sending it to the local daycare, something like that. But I'm saying, what we did last time with like sending out all the mailers, putting it in the paper, you know, et cetera, that was pretty expensive, and I don't,
Percent return.
yeah, I don't think that would be worth our
And
investment, again.
Maybe the question needs to be asked a different way. I mean, the CT has been a old board for
Yeah,
a while.
absolutely.
But, maybe it takes 14 kids to fund that teacher, but is there room in the budget to say, this first year, maybe everybody's hesitant and we're not gonna get the response we want, but, if we had a CT position and we fund half of that teacher, are we gonna be able to stomach it from a budget perspective? Because that would change how I look at it too. Because
100%.
you can't expect something to take off right away. I mean, it's gotta have time to evolve and grow, and if we got 6, 7 kids that first year,
Right,
can we weather that first year to see if it's gonna work?
yep,
Because that, to me, would be worth it. Because then you have a year, for everybody to be aware. And maybe after that first year, maybe we have 6 kids from within the district and 15 from outside
Right.
wanting to come in, We're looking at a pretty big pool.
yeah.
So if we thought we could pay for half of it, that would change my
Or
opinion.
grant money, there's
Right.
variables.
More
That's,
information.
So right now, there's 35 4-year-olds within 10 miles of Freeman?
According to the feasibility study, yes.
And couldn't you also open it up to 4-year-olds though, and they pay the differential?
Yes.
right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the other option. Yeah.
We don't need 14 5-year-olds, we need 14 people and all the money accounted for.
Or whatever makes,
Yeah, exactly.
So if we
A
have-
portion, or,
I'd be willing to make that first year try to see if it works. If we say that if it doesn't work, we can still stomach half of that salary for that year.
Yeah.
And keep the direction we're going with the CTE.
I think it'd be good to move on to new business number 1 and then maybe come back to number 3, because I know Katie's got some information that she put together about the CTE courses, potentially what could be offered. So if we have that information, that might affect your decision on number 3.
right, yeah, because they're both, yeah, staffing, yeah. That sounds good.
And going to that survey, I think we could just do a Google form on the website.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna go on there and fill it out if it doesn't pertain to them.
Right.
And we could ask information, what's your
Oh,
name,
for
what's your
sure.
number?
Yeah. But how do we tell people that
Interested?
it's on there?
Yeah, and I think that's where we use our social media to help with that. And I
sure.
think we could do what you said. We could do a QR code
Right.
that would link them to that. We could send it home with every elementary student and daycares.
Right.
That's paper.
True. Yeah, that's easy.
cheap. That's not gonna,
Yeah.
we got plenty of reams of that.
Right.
That's not gonna cost us anything.
Yeah.
And just see what we can get for feedback. And
I think that's
I'm
a
sure
great
Kelly
idea.
has a list also that does have our
Potential.
potential 5-year-olds coming in, so we could reach to them too and
Right.
see.
Right.
But I don't know that we're really gonna know until we have, that dial screening, but it would at least give us an idea of who's out there and who might be a possibility.
If we would offer that, sorry, one more before we move on, one more question that popped into my head. If we offered this, like junior kindergarten, big kindergarten, whatever, for 5-year-olds, would, and Jake, this is a question for you, is that then something that the other daycares or those that offer preschool would no longer offer, or they would also offer it as an alternative?
Would still be offered as an alternative. And, I think that would be a positive thing, because I think in the feasibility study, we all program,
Oh, absolutely.
we'd be looking at.
Or it would give
somewhere
them
in
more
that ballpark.
bandwidth to take more
Kids, capping
4-year-olds
it.
or whatever, I know when my kids were in preschool, there was a waiting list, so. Okay. sorry. All right.
Okay, so the schedule that you see in front of you is the current schedule for this year, so you're not gonna see me mixing anything in there. I just wanted you to kind of see how our schedule sort of works in the building, and then look at, you could slide any class you wanted to in any of those columns straight down. So period 1, you could look at that, and so if you look at the bottom, it'll tell you what group of students there are. So I have to have you understand the schedule in order to understand maybe some options that we might have. So if you looked at period 1, right, and you said, okay, we're gonna put any kind of course there, who could take it? So if you look at period 1, your seniors could not because they're in required classes, right? So it eliminates your seniors. Your juniors could because they are in elective periods at that time, and currently we offer 4 electives during that time. So I think those would be your only high school students not in a required course during that period.
The 11th
So-
grade.
Yep, so it'd be 11th grade, so this year, you would have had 27 students that could have taken those courses. They could take between 4, you add 5, it would be 5. That's kind of how it works across the board. So when I say we're a little bit limited, you can't just have one person come in and teach one class and have it during period 1, because the only kids who would be afforded that class would be juniors.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And there's only, really in the schedule, it's pretty tight, there's really only 2 periods in which the majority of your high school students would be free. That in this particular schedule, that would be period 3, which is when we have everybody is in an elective period at the high school. So we offer ag leadership right now. We do have a chemistry section during that time. We have chorus, computer programming during that time. Those are the 4 things we offer during that time. And then the only other time that's available for the entire high school would be during period 5, which currently right now is our band and our non-band study hall. And there's 100 kids in band, right? We're at like 90 something. So essentially you could put more courses in that period. A, every teacher has to have a prep, and B, you'll start just diminishing your band section, that's however you want to go. So I just kind of want to show you the schedule. So this is why it's a little bit tricky. You can add whatever you want. It just gets a little bit tricky to get the volume of students ran through a classroom door, if that makes sense, okay? So a couple of things. So the third paper in, this is the not great survey that we offered last year, because we only asked about 5 classes. We didn't really ask about we should have been more specific, but really this was just kind of a feeler for potentially sharing with Marion. So that's the reason why these 5 are on there, is because that's what they had in their building to offer us.
Got it.
And then the Marion kids were asked separate because it's what we had in our building to offer them, if that makes sense. So those are the numbers, because every student could choose more than one option. So those were kind of what those options look like. If you look at it, it's like they want everything, right? Because it's just what it is, and that's okay. So I have been talking with Kristen Larson at the state. She's the CTE person at the state. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, the CTE instructor permit. So the CTE instructor permit is not an alternative certification piece. So currently Melinda right now is working on an alternative certification piece. That's to actually get her teaching license. She has to go through that 2-year period to get that license, take all of her tests, and then she can start adding endorsements if she passes the requirements through the state for those endorsements. So the instructor permit, this is what it looks like once you get the certification. So as long as you complete that approved suicide awareness and prevention training, which is about, a couple hours, and you just go through, it's relatively easy to pass. And as long as you have 4,000 hours of work experience, then you can basically apply for this instructor permit, and you can come in and you can teach. And that will get you in the door. My thoughts on it are, again, it gets a little tricky just to pick a period, because you're limited to what kids can be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Plus, it has to work in somebody's day, and an instructor permit is probably going to be somebody who already has a job, right? So to ask them to come in the middle of the day is probably not the best choice. But I'm wondering, and I haven't reached out yet because I want to see what your thoughts are, so in a couple of other districts that are closer to Sioux Falls, CTE Academy over in Sioux Falls actually offers some welding courses and some automotive classes, and those kids actually leave at about 6:30 in the morning to drive to Sioux Falls and go to class from 7:30 to 8:30, and then they come back. My thought on that is not to do that. My thought on that would be, it could be a potential that we offered a class prior to the school day starting for any of those students in 9 through 12 who wanted to be a part of it, and have that person, they would be in the building, hopefully before their job, right? They could do one of those courses. It could be a quarter, it could be a semester, which would be more ideal. It could be a full year course. They could teach it, and then those students at some point during the day would have either a study hall or an off. I mean, we can't really say they would leave early because, again, somebody's going to have a core class at the end of the day, because that's just how that's how tight the schedule is. So that's a thought to at least get it started so we can start building, because
What time would that look like? I mean, just thinking about, what we've invested in a weight room instructor and a lot of those
I'm
same-
thinking, yeah, we would have to
kids.
mind that time, but our periods are 48 minutes.
Okay.
And we start at 8:10. So I'm thinking if you did 7:15-ish or something, you could do that.
that.
It's an option. I'm not saying it's the best option. I'm just saying it's a way to at least progress forward and start something. I looked at, so if you look at your papers behind there, so ag, food and natural resources. So these are the classes in which anybody in that ag umbrella can teach, okay? But obviously you have to be comfortable teaching them. I mean, some teachers can teach lots of things and they didn't even know they could teach them when they look at their state-approved teaching certificate. But if we're looking for somebody to come in and do welding, they need to be under the manufacturing category. They can't be under the ag category.
Okay.
If we're looking for somebody to teach more of the construction trades, then they need to be under the architecture and construction program. And that last page will just show you, so those are your 16 career clusters, and you, in order to teach anything in those, you have to be certified in every one of those items.
Okay.
So a lot of people, yeah, they're certified in both the manufacturing and the architect, right? Some are only in the ag, and then they have to be on a plan of intent to get through these two programs here. So that's my short-term thought. I had somebody tell me that potentially their husband might be interested in coming in and teaching some construction. I know a student who's doing a fantastic job in a welding internship, and we could try to reach out and see if anything like that would work, or even if it would work during the day. I'm not really quite sure. And then as far as the pay, I suppose you would just pay, you would come up with an agreement as to what that would look like. We've had people do that. We've had people in the building do that before, journalism and photography, things like that. Or your option B is you open up the position, you see who applies, you see what they have. Obviously, you want to look for that architect and construction and manufacturing. You want to look for that because that's what you're wanting to offer. And then we just do our best at putting the proper courses where we think that group of students would need. And you could teach 3 courses of, basic welding the first year just to get everybody through that basic piece, and then kind of up it as you go by. That's what I got. I mean, those are our options essentially, I would say. So, questions on any of that?
Katie, what would be your recommendation for the number of additional classes that we can sustain and have enough kids to make it worthwhile offering that class with this current schedule?
Are you talking about keeping it within the school day, current school day? Or going
Both.
Both.
What do you mean?
So how many, like if we offered additional classes in woods, metals, whatever additional classes we decide to offer, how many could we make fit within this existing schedule and still have enough kids in there where it'd be worthwhile to offer those classes, in your opinion?
Well, it sounds
I
like-
don't even know that I could begin to answer that because I wouldn't know the interest necessarily of the students, and that's going to depend on, I'm just going to say, it's going to depend on who the teacher is, right? It's going to depend on,
They'll be choosing, choosing,
Yeah.
not
I mean,
to go in a different elective.
Yeah.
Sure.
Our Spanish 1 this year has 20 students in it. Now, all those kids can't take Spanish 1 again.
Right.
So that's 20 students. So if you were to put it during period 2, let's say the schedule stays exactly the same, which it never does, but let's say it did, you know, if you put it in period 2 next year, that's 20 students that have to find somewhere else to go because they can't take Spanish, right? So, but, I mean, the 8th grade class is gonna be freshmen, and there are 40 of them.
Yeah.
So now you've got 40 students, you know, looking for something to do, and that
And
was
most of
a-
them are boys too.
Yeah, and that was I mean, it just fluctuates so much because you can't take the same class twice, so depending on the year, you know, some kids don't take a class because they're unsure of it, then maybe a few people take it and they like it, so then the next year more kids go to that class.
But you said it could be like where there would be 3 different sections of basic welding or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
of
say
course.
within a, right.
It's just that, you know, if I'm in period 2 elective and I take that class and I offer it again period 6 and that's my elective period, now as a student, I can't take that again.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I guess what I'm asking is, the scenarios that you've presented with us, which I really appreciate you explaining, it sounds like it would be more amenable to offer this as a part-time position and not like a full-time, like,
I mean, I think you can do
Full-time
it
position.
however you, I mean,
Want.
we could offer any position at full-time however we want. I really couldn't tell you the numbers until we figured out what's
Right.
gonna go against each class each time based on when the teachers are teaching it. You know, when there's a core.
Sure.
Because if there's a core, you can't not be
Right.
in the core. You have to
Absolutely.
take it, it's a requirement.
Yeah.
And the problem is, in a building our size, if I'm a freshman in first period, I don't want to take world history, I may never get into world history again.
Right.
Because that, you know, you have to follow your class.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Sioux Falls where there's 7 sections of world history, I can take it next year.
Right.
It's not like that.
yeah,
you
no,
know?
that's helpful. Okay.
We did do, so there will be a better survey, we just got done. So, every 3 years, we go through this with, CTE through the state. So, the students just took a survey through the state. I don't have access to those results, I've asked for them, but she said, I can't get them to you, we'll get them by the time we have to do our CLNA, but that's not until March. And then we'll have a parent survey available at parent-teacher conferences that use the QR code, and they can go on and fill that out too to see the interest from community and parents, and then students. But we won't have those results until March. I asked for them, but she didn't have them for me. But it's more of like the 16 clusters. Like they'll have all those clusters listed. What would you be most interested in? That kind of stuff. So. I think my other piece would also be that there would need to be some investment in just even basic tools back there. I mean, I know when Melinda does just like a basic, like creating a game or like a game out of wood or something with the middle school group. I mean, she's bringing her own power tools. 'Cause we don't have much back there. And
But they got rid of a lot. And they probably were ancient and
Yeah,
needed to be
like
surplus.
frayed.
Oh, yeah, exactly, not safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be resolved, but I don't think this is gonna come to maturity in 1 year. You know, it's not gonna cycle up to where we want it to be. It's gonna build on itself. So I think we need to find a place that we're comfortable entering in to this space. And what does that look like? My assumption is, I didn't assume that next year we would offer everything you need to know about construction. Like
Sure.
this. But there's got to be some middle ground that we can find our feet and start this process.
Right, that's why I kind of asked too, like, would this be more amenable to like a part-time position? Or even, yeah, like, I mean, even starting out doing just the morning, you know, before school, I liked that as a potential option as well.
I'd like to hear from the construction guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or, to be honest.
I like the final option. I would like to post it, see what applicants we get, what they're qualified to teach, and build the program around that.
Okay.
And then
But what would you post it as, part-time, full-time?
I would hire full-time. I would like to make the commitment to the CT program with, it might be rocky, it might be rough, we'll get them in where we can. And then said, the schedules never change, never stay the same, so we build from it.
Right.
And once we have someone hired and we know what they can and cannot teach, then we'll know what we need to stock back there to provide them with the provision, because right now it's a storage unit.
Right.
We can't stock it with tools, especially if they can't teach how to use them. So I think we need a full-time person making a commitment and move forward.
I would agree. I think we better leave the option open for part-time if that's all we can find. But I guess my train of thought is if we get a full-time position, but we can't fill their full schedule, that first year they need to be figuring out the curriculum.
Yeah, exactly. That was my.
Is to get certified in more and figuring out what grants are available to purchase the tools and the infrastructure we need to start growing it.
From everything I've been told from shop teachers in other states and local communities, that a motivated individual, there is a litany of grants out there if you're willing to take the time and fill them out.
Sure.
But it would take, a right person motivated in there, and I think there's potential, but it'll be rough.
And there's industry money out there. I mean, I've written letters for Mitchell School District, Horsico School District, for them to get grants, and I mean, the industry is starting to understand that they better start supporting schools
Investing,
and investing
really.
in them.
True enough.
And there's some really big dollars too through Perkins. The only issue with those dollars, and maybe it won't be an issue, is that you just need to have matching funds. So you can get up to 250, but you have to have the matching funds.
Sure.
So whatever you can match is what you
Right.
can maybe get.
Right.
So there are some of those things. You gotta have a plan, you gotta have a space, but there are some of those things. And honestly, like as far as full-time or not full-time, or whether, we got study halls they can do too, so it's not like we can't put something on their schedule.
good.
It's not like they're just gonna be sitting around doing nothing for, not that we wanna have a bunch of that, but.
Well, like you said, there's going to be plenty to do, especially to build the program the
Well,
first
it's
year,
that
regardless of if we
I would
want
like
to do
to,
classes or
in
whatever.
its essence, build a program, and I think that starts with a full-time employee and a commitment from the district to keep pushing for it.
I agree with that.
So maybe what I would say is that, depending on what you decide, if you post, see if there's any applicants out there, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But maybe in the meantime, what I can do is just reach out to some community members and see if there is interest, and if this doesn't work,
Right.
would there be interest? So then if there isn't any applicants or anybody willing to come,
Right.
we have
A contingency
at
plan.
least something to start with.
Yeah.
At least to offer something.
I like that. I like that.
So do we ask you now if you're interested, or?
I don't know what the policy is on language. It's everything I can do to get through one of these meetings. There's a fuse on how long I can keep it in.
Right.
But happy to come in and help to whatever degree I can. I think most of the other contractors in all the various fields in Freeman would be happy to donate time.
And probably I think you'll get a lot more action from area employers too if we get somebody in the building willing to commit to coming in and.
Yeah, I think when the community knows that we're serious about something we want to build, I think they'll rally behind. Every one of them I talk to says there's nobody to work. Nobody has any interest in it, and a lot of it's just foreign to them. It's alien. They've never been around it. It's not interesting.
Even if they don't go into the construction industry a lot of these things are basic things that a lot of kids aren't learning.
Yeah, it's life skills.
Right.
The skill that they're gonna keep
Yeah,
their whole life.
true enough.
When I first learned to swing a hammer, that's what my boss always said, whether if you stick with it or not, you have to live in a house. You might as well know what's behind the sheetrock. So at least then you'll know if someone like me comes to, gild the lily a little bit on the estimate.
Not what I was expecting to hear tonight.
No, it's good to just have a basic knowledge of it. Everybody has to live somewhere.
Well, too, just like we're growing, we're offering more options for kids,
That's what I like. I just like,
Yeah, music might not be everybody's jam, art might be not be, but trying to find something that they really enjoy, I think is a good thing to do as well.
And I took an interest to it from someone that was kicked out of high school, and that's how I pay my bills now. And getting started in a shop class.
Well, that's what I mean, like, a lot of kids come to school for sports, a lot of kids come to school for, music or electives or whatever, but we're missing this part,
Yep,
so.
I agree.
So back to the preschool.
Right.
If
So we have to hold off on one.
Well, if we add the full-time position, how do we feel about budget in respect to, my gut says we're gonna get half of a teacher paid for. I mean, if you look at, there's 35 kids within 10 miles, and there's that many, 51?
Right.
If you go 15 miles, there's more than
Well,
that.
and then like Cody said, then,
91 maybe?
if you don't get,
91, another 5 miles.
if you don't get
I gotta
14,
believe that.
maybe then you open it up to
that
4-year-olds and you do the
Yeah, then we can open
paper
up.
service, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think we could say anything definitively today on that, on either one.
So since the third grade isn't split next year, isn't that an extra teacher?
Right now, we,
The first grade is gonna split into
Adding
second,
one.
Okay,
to
that's
second
out.
to second grade, yeah,
And
it's
then
just a
we-
little bit of a shuffle.
We approved a hire for which, for Jane's?
yep, so that's a we don't have
That's
to.
just a rehire, so that won't be an additional FTE, it's just adding that
But
one.
we approved an additional one?
Right,
So
from that
for
one.
first grade, that's the only
Right.
additional.
And then we want to approve a second additional employee, which would be, full-time employee, which would be for the CTE program.
That was right.
Yeah.
Well, I think a survey would be good to see how many potential kids are out there, and then how many of those
Revisit in the
kids we would
February
be,
meeting.
how many of those kids we'd be taking away from our kindergarten class
Yeah.
that would be held back into a preschool.
You want to do that and come back with more information for the February meeting, make sure that this is on the agenda
I'm comfortable with that.
for the preschool?
I feel better about that, yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to move forward with the CTE position, posting the CTE, a full-time CTE position tonight?
I would make a motion for that.
I would be in favor of that.
Yes, everybody feels comfortable? Okay. Then we will add an agenda item under new business. Be like agenda item 1.5. And I will take a motion to approve the the hiring of a full-time CTE teacher for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next time on the agenda was number 2, now number 3. The school board will hold a discussion about changing the February 12th regular board meeting to an alternative date.
Sorry, this is me. I'd like
I
to
know
be at another
Doug has an
board meeting that night. I'd like to-
conflict. What does everybody
I think
think?
I needed my calendar.
I'm sorry.
I thought.
What does everybody think
I thought
about
we still
spending
come here on
Valentine's Day together?
Teacher conferences will be here anyway.
That's right.
Done worse things on Valentine's Day.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I need to be.
I'll bring cupcake, well, David will bring cupcakes.
I am quite the baker.
Are you?
No, I would say if you are, you're sitting next to the chocolate chip cookie king as far as I'm concerned.
I cook, he bakes, I guess, I don't know.
This could be a nice relationship till they come over here.
Yeah?
I would like
Aren't we cute?
What's that?
Aren't we cute?
14th? I mean, it's
Yeah,
parent-teacher
I'd hold it.
conferences, but,
Ash Wednesday.
oh yeah, it is Ash Wednesday too. I think my kids actually have to serve at church, but that's okay. I can miss
It
mass.
doesn't work, it doesn't work.
No, it's fine for me.
I don't even know. I just wait till I get the email and then Doug or
Moving from
Jake tells
Monday
me
to
when to be
Wednesday.
here.
Valentine's.
Valentine's Day.
Does the 14th work for everybody? Yeah? All right, then I will,
Can it be date night? Like, could we pick a date?
yeah, you should, in fact.
Spouse to the board meeting?
Say anything.
Especially yours.
Can it be comment?
He doesn't want me around anymore.
There
Yeah,
for
they
the,
get 3
and then
minutes,
they can
yeah.
profess their
Public
love to
input.
us
Oh, wow, that could be
on
interesting.
TV. It'd be great.
All right, so I'm going to require a motion to change the February 12th regular board meeting to an alternative date of Wednesday, February 14th, still at 7 PM. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by David. Do I have a second? second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, executive session will require a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Carissa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In executive session, 7:55 PM.
Is this for like preschool?